Refugee Support Program. Looking that everything will go okay, technically speaking, is Susana Guerrero from the Polytechnic of Madrid. I will be the moderator of this online session. That is the first one in this cycle of 3 webinars that are being held in the framework of the INCLUSTEM project, a project participated by the KTH Stockholm, TU Berlin, and Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. INCLUSTEM seeks to develop a model to build inclusive higher education institutions for students with a migration background. And these 3 training sessions should actively contribute to that aim, focusing in particular in the topic to the access of to higher education through academic recognition. But before moving forward with content and debate, we have the pleasure of having with us Isabel Ortiz Marcos, a member of the INCLUSTEM project at the UPM level, who will open the cycle. Let me share with you a few words about Isabel. She is a PhD industrial engineer by the Polytechnic of Madrid. She teaches and does research in the project management field at Industrial Engineering School, and currently is the director of the Leadership and Technology Center in the UPM. Isabel, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you, all those that they join us today to this workshop. So thank you very much. Especially, I would like to thank Katia Perez for helping us to lead the work. So, well, this is, as Katia said, this is in the context of the INCLUSTEM project. One of the main goals of the project is to be aware of the challenges we have to face as university from the point of view of the students of refugees and from the point of view of the university staff. So I hope that it will help us to go deeper in how to do it better, and especially to be aware of what is going on and what we have to do to improve. So thank you very much also all those that you will be sharing with us your knowledge and helping us to improve. From my side, it's open. I hope we all learn a lot together and enjoy. So thank you, Katia.
Thank you, Isabel. I think that challenge and challenging are keywords in this topic of recognition of higher education, higher studies, and the access to the university. Well, as Isabel said, this webinar or this cycle of webinar is aimed at administrative, technical staff, and teachers of the universities. Unfortunately, this first one won't solve current questions about how to access a particular university, but we hope that the webinar can allow us to discuss how to create and carry out inclusive universities for refugees and migrant background students. For this reason, we count on 5 speakers that will contribute with their insights and experience to the discussion. Regarding to the structure of the session, there will be a total of 3 blocks of content. Each of them will last around 40 minutes, and at the end of each block, participants are encouraged to ask questions, share their thoughts, etc. Well, this first session, as I said, wants to introduce the discussion about the topic at the European level, starting with the Convention of Lisbon. And for this, we have Katia Dreyer. Hi, Katia, welcome.
Yes, welcome. Yes.
She is an economist and secretary to the Council of Europe Steering Committee for Education. And since 2019, she is co-secretary to the Lisbon Recognition Convention. She is also representing the Council of Europe in Bologna process steering bodies and several working groups. Since 1997, Katia has been working in the Council of Europe, where she joined the Department of Education in 2006, focusing on higher education issues. From 2011 through 2018, Katia has been focusing on regional and bilateral cooperation in the field of education, including negotiating and running joint programs with the European Union. So you are the key people to talk about the Lisbon Convention. Thank you very much for joining us in this webinar. And well, we are all ears.
Thank you very much. So you want me to start, yeah?
Yes, please.
Yes. The only thing is that I have sent a PowerPoint presentation, but I don't know if you can put it on or not, or if, yeah, that's because I'm not a very technical person, unfortunately.
Katia, you are co-hosting, so you can share your screen, but if you want, I can share it.
Yes, I think it will be easier if you share it because my technical skills are very limited. Sorry.
No worries, Katia. If you can share, Susana, your screen.
Give me a second.
Yeah.
So basically, let me already start speaking. As you mentioned, I'm a co-secretary to the Lisbon Recognition Convention. So it's a pleasure for me to be here. And of course, what I will present not only covers the work that I am carrying out in the framework of the Council of Europe Education Department, but also we have a team of people who are also working on different topics, particularly linked to the integration of refugees and to the recognition of qualification. I wanted to, that's why I say prepared by the Education Department of the Council of Europe, because the PowerPoint was actually prepared by many colleagues. But as a starting point, I mean, I wanted to structure my presentation in basically several parts. First, I wanted to speak a little bit about the convention and particularly Article 7. Then I wanted to touch on some other instruments that exist under the convention, and particularly also on the implementation of the articles of the convention. And then I wanted to speak a little bit more about the European Qualification Passport for Refugees, because this is an instrument that has been that was developed by the Council of Europe, and we have a whole team managing this from our side. So as a starting point, this next slide. I mean, the issue is there, and this is the statistics that have been found by my colleagues. So 1 in 8 immigrants said that qualifications recognition is their biggest challenge, above even language skills, discrimination, or visa restrictions. So we find that this is a very significant statistics that basically shows that we do have a serious problem. Next slide, please. The Lisbon Recognition Convention this year celebrates its 25th anniversary. And it has proven to be a very efficient legal instrument at the European level. When we say European level, actually, this is a joint convention between the Council of Europe and UNESCO. So the European level, the European region is UNESCO region. So that is why we have also many countries, and the outreach of convention goes from Canada to Tajikistan. So it is a very vast convention. It's not only covering Europe in the sense that we're used to, not even in the Council of Europe sense, where we have 46 member states. Now, also this convention replaced some of the existing conventions previously. So I think there were at least 3 or 4 Council of Europe conventions on equivalence of diplomas, and also the Convention of UNESCO. And I think that is also very significant because instead of this one legal instrument, we could have found ourselves now in the situation when we would have had many different legal instruments with different parts. So the Lisbon Recognition Convention put many different concepts together, and it also proposed a notion of substantial differences, getting away from the equivalence of qualification. Now, more specifically, Article 7 of the Convention is directly linked to the recognition of refugees' qualification. So it is about the obligation that each party shall take reasonable steps to develop procedures designed to assess whether refugees, displaced persons, and persons in a refugee-like situation fulfill the relevant requirements for access to higher education, to further higher education programs, or to employment even if the qualification cannot be proven through documentary evidence. Because, of course, when people leave their country, maybe some of them do take all the necessary documentation, but of course, under significant stress, in quite dramatic circumstances, they may arrive with incomplete documentation. Then afterwards, there was, after the adoption of the Lisbon Recognition Convention, there was some further work which was carried out on the recognition of qualifications of refugees. There was a statement of the committee, of the Convention Committee, in 2016, and later on there was a recommendation on the recognition of qualifications held by refugees, displaced persons, and persons in a refugee-like situation, which was adopted by the Lisbon Recognition Convention Committee on the 14th of November 2017. Now, how was this implemented and where we stand now? The Lisbon Recognition Convention has been monitored twice, and also this particular monitoring was carried out in 2019. So there were several questions which was linked to how the countries are, what provisions they include in their national legislations, and whether they are really doing their utmost to make sure that the refugees' qualifications are recognized. And at the time of this monitoring, there were 39 responses from 39 countries, and we noted that there were existing procedures in 22 out of 39 countries. So that was the answer, and also there was a question whether there is information provided on the different instruments and procedures that exist at national level regarding the recognition of refugees' qualifications. And at the time, there were only 16 countries that actually had provided full information about the procedures that exist in their national contexts. And I don't want to go very much in detail in this report, but since then, things have slightly moved on. I mean, we also had unfortunate circumstances when we had very dramatic refugee crisis in Europe. There was a Syrian crisis, and now we have a crisis with Ukrainian refugees coming in Europe. Now we are finalizing, we finalized the monitoring report, which we'll present in mid-November to the Lisbon Recognition Convention Committee, where there was not specific monitoring of the Article 7 on the refugee qualifications, but there were questions regarding information provision by the countries on different on their higher education systems, including the recognition of refugee qualifications. And even in 2022, only 55% of countries provide information on the refugee qualifications. We had 54 responses, so 29 countries have responded. Now, in the Council of Europe, that's a little bit more on the what I was speaking before was more on the policy level, what we are doing. So we are following the situation very in a very detailed way. We're trying to make sure that we are on the track, but also we also developed a European qualification passport for refugees, which is a practical tool for implementation of Article 7 of the Lisbon Recognition Convention. And here you have also some other texts which are referring to the EQPR. We were very pleased that EQPR, the European Qualification Passport for Refugees, was mentioned in the recommendation about which I was speaking just a few minutes ago. But also it was mentioned in the Rome communique of at the Bologna ministerial meeting in 2020, where the statement reads that the countries welcome the EQPR and stated that they will support further broadening its use in their systems. And then there was also a European Commission recommendation on dealing with incomplete qualification, and also it refers to the EQPR, which provides for assessment of post-secondary qualification based on available documentation and structured interview. Next slide, please. So basically, a brief history on the European Qualification Passport for Refugees, how it came about. So first, the first crisis, and we had many calls from Greece at the time who were trying to cope with the influx of refugees. So it was a Greek initiative to help refugee students. And then when we looked around, we saw that there already exists a good methodology, which was developed by Norway and the UK. And the first meeting took place in Athens in the fall of 2016. Then there was piloting phase. We have joined forces also with UNHCR. So already there were 4 countries on board then. And there were 3 rounds of interviews conducted in Greece. From then on, we had the project was growing, and we have experienced more and more interest from different countries. So from 2018 to 2021, we had already 13 countries on board, and also the UNHCR, who remained our partner throughout. There were different applicants coming from different countries, and then interviews. We started off first with face-to-face interviews, but afterwards they were conducted online. Of course, mainly because also of the COVID pandemic, when everything passed online. And there were involvement of different stakeholders, on the one hand of universities in Italy, and for example, such stakeholders as the Ministry of the Interior in France. And now we are pleased to say that as of 2022, we have 20 countries on board, which are building capacity and continue raising awareness among end users. This instrument is proving to be also useful in the current crisis when we have to cope with Ukrainian refugees. Next slide, please. Now, when we thought, what was the objective of this project from the outset, we wanted to devise the methodology which will allow to assess refugee qualification even if they're incomplete, and also that it is described in a format which is clear and accurate, and which is accepted as a valid documentary supplement by the end users. And here you have some photos from different sessions that we have. The one on the left, I think we had one in Strasbourg, which was organized by the mayor's office in Strasbourg. And then you also have some examples and some photos of the end users, the people who received the European Qualification Passport for Refugees. So next slide, please. So how does the methodology work? First of all, there is an analysis carried out of the available documentation and information. Also desk research. I mean, sometimes there exists some databases and you can find some information there. And then an element is structured interview with qualified credential evaluators. We are making sure that also we have international teams of credential evaluation. And the idea is to map, summarize, and present credible information about the refugees' educational level. Next slide, please. So that is on your right, you see how the document looks like. So it consists of 3 main parts. The personal information, so who is this person, where he or she comes from, with a photo as well. Then there are qualifications, so what is the educational background of this person? And then there is, on the bottom, there is some additional information, if there is some information, about work experience and about the languages, so that this can support the information contained. So it's a standardized document that is issued by the Council of Europe. Next slide, please. So here again, this is the process of this. So first, there is an application for a questionnaire. It now also with the COVID pandemic was a blessing in disguise, because it helped us also to put things online and to be more IT oriented. So now the applications are carried out through the Council of Europe IT platform. Then there is an assessment. So basically, there is always a team of at least 2 enigmarics, so that it's not just carried out by people. As I mentioned, it's an international team. And the idea is to reconstruct the missing parts. So connecting the dots, so to say, with the help of the interview. And then the outcome is the European Qualification Passport for Refugees, which is issued by the Council of Europe. And these are our partners. We are very pleased that actually we have more and more, well, on the one hand, the project is, we get financial support from some of the countries, which is of course very important for us. And for example, as you see here, Ministries of Education of Greece and Italy, Ministry of Education of Norway, Government of Flanders, and Ministry of Interior of France is a partner without financial support. As I mentioned, we have close cooperation with the UNHCR and Higher Education Institution Conference of University Rectors of Italy. And then there is a list of the 20 countries that we have. Some of them joined really very, very recently. So, for example, among the latest one was Poland, because they experienced a very significant influx of refugees. Romania, where there was a session organized by our EQPR team, and Latvia. So these are now the countries which are covered by this project. So basically, just to recap, the European Qualification Passport of Refugees is an international instrument. We are very pleased in the Council of Europe to have it. It's a unique international tool to support refugees to continue their studies or work. It's fast, credible, and internationally reportable. It does not mean to replace the standard national procedures. And also, of course, there are other tools as well that exist. So rather than replace those, it is there to complement. It is flexible, but still there is a standardized approach. And there is a quality control, which is carried out by the Council of Europe. The Council of Europe puts its stamp of approval on each European Qualification Passport for Refugees, which is very important for the creation of trust with the participating countries, and is a sign of quality for employers and universities. Now, also to mention that our counterparts in UNESCO are also developing UNESCO Qualification Passport, which touches on the countries that are outside the scope of the EQPR. So they're mainly working now in Africa. We heard that they are piloting their European, their UNESCO Qualification Passport. They had some sessions in Zambia, and also I think there are other countries that are now joining the process. So, which is, I think, is a very welcome development, because that means that we have instruments which are compatible, which are based on the same principles and that are complementary to each other because they are acting in different geographical regions. I think I stopped there because I don't have a habit of making lectures of 40 minutes. So I hope that this will be enough as a starting point. I mean, I'm happy for any questions and any suggestions. My colleague, actually, I was thinking first of asking my colleague Samir Hetso to make this presentation because he's much more aware of all the details of the European Qualification Passport of Refugees. But unfortunately, he was not available because he is presenting the European Qualification Passport of Refugees to our Parliamentary Assembly Committee on Migration, which is, of course, for us very important because that means that this raises political significance of this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Katia. I think that you have had, like, you gave us a glimpse of what is going on right now at the level of the Lisbon Convention. Now I encourage participants to raise their hands. I can see one raised right now. Please don't be shy. We have the pleasure of having Katia, so she can ask questions and try to respond to some of our doubts. Yes, Kaisa?
Yes, it's Kaisa. Good morning.
Kaisa, sorry.
Calling in from Stockholm and KTH University here. Thank you so much for the presentation. I was wondering how many individuals have received the end document, so to get an idea of the scale.
I think, well, I remember the figure of 1,500. I remember this figure. I don't know if this is really the latest statistics, but that is approximately the scale. And I mean, it's, of course, it takes time. And also we are only, looking at people who are applying for this. But I think that what is important is that it is very international. So the scale is, around 1,500. But if you want, I can also check with my colleagues for the latest statistics. Thank you.
More questions? I have one, Katia. Regarding the Lisbon Convention, you said, I don't know if Susanna, we can put on the screen the second, I think it's the second slide, referring to the to what covers, or the type of groups of people that covers the Article 7. And I remember that it's the concept refugee-like situations there. And I would like to know what's the concept. It's the second, I think, yeah. To assess whether refugee, displaced persons, and persons in a refugee-like situations fulfill the relevant requirements. And I would like to know what's the concept of refugee-like situations.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, to be honest, I am not 100% sure about what is meant under refugee-like situation. Maybe it's, I'm guessing here, maybe it's the ones who don't have yet the refugee status. So they are already, I don't know, maybe in the process of getting the refugee status. But I must say for this, I have to maybe refer to the explanatory protocol. If you bear with me. Article 7. I don't see in the explanatory protocol. I don't see the explanation on a refugee-like situation. But if you're interested, I can of course try to communicate with people who have more information on this.
Yeah, because
sorry not to be able to respond to you.
No, Katia, we don't have to have all the answers.
Yes.
But sorry. it's interesting for me personally to know what's the concept, because we are working as well with with people in refugee-like situations, not necessarily asylum seekers. So for us can be important. I can see here that there is a question related from Soraya from the Universidad de Burgos in Spain. She says, thank you, Katia, for your presentation. I was wondering if there is any intention to implement the European Qualification Passport in Spain.
Actually, I was told by my colleagues from the EQPR team that there is a lot of interest for us to have Spain on board, because my colleague Samir said, oh, it's a pity that I cannot be there, because for us Spain is very interesting. Now, the way it works is we do need to get a request from national authorities, to say we would like to be part of this project. This does not cost anything. There is a really, I mean, it's more or less a formal letter of interest. And then the team makes sure that the country is well informed, that there are experts who are trained and everything. But this is free of charge. So from our side, there is certainly an interest, and we very much hope that maybe we will have Spain hopefully soon also as part of these activities.
We hope as well. Any more questions for Katia?
This is Kais again. Maybe just to follow up on that, I think Sweden was also not part when it comes to countries not being part of this, what sounds like a fantastic project. What is usually the reason? Do the countries already have a process, or is there a political reason why Sweden, for instance, is not part?
Yes, I think there are some countries that develop their own instruments. And I think Sweden is exactly one of these countries. I think it's Sweden, and there is let me think, Denmark is another country. They have something called background paper that they use. So that is why, I mean, this is not, how do you say, it is not an obligation. There is no kind of pressure, oh, you absolutely need to join. It is open for, to be joined. But if a country feels that they have enough of their own procedures that allow them to cope with these situations, then that's also okay. We are absolutely not wanting to suppress all other initiatives. So the background paper, I mean, I saw some presentation from the Swedish center and the Danish one, and they feel for their purposes and their needs, this is sufficient. Thank you.
Katia, I have a question. In the actual context of the Ukrainian conflict, which barriers or opportunities do you see to apply the EQPR?
Well, I mean, we are now, there are more opportunities, I feel. I mean, the Ukrainian crisis is, of course, very dramatic, but it has its specificity. We had discussions with the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. Ukraine has a very good database where they have different qualifications. So they feel that the use of this database is sufficient for people when they leave Ukraine and when they go to other countries to confirm their qualifications. But on the other hand, there are still situations which are not. I mean, there are also, of course, situations that arise where this database may not be enough because, I mean, it does not cover qualifications which were obtained just before some time. I don't remember what is the date, like, let's say, 1980 something. So if a person comes with a qualification from before, then of course the database may not provide all the answers. So I mean, we are there to supplement what the Ukrainian authorities have. In a sense of employment, Ukrainian refugees in many countries, they have they received almost immediately the right to work, which I think is a very positive. Like, I don't know, I mean, I maybe not know all the European experience, but I know that at least in France, they have the right to work. So of course they have more problems with languages and accommodation. And of course, I mean, there is a separation of families and all this. So nevertheless, for example, when we carried out the session in France, my colleagues went there, the interviews with refugees, there were a number of Ukrainian refugees. And what was interesting, they were mainly coming with they were mainly applying for getting, I mean, that is a little bit peculiar situation, because they were coming with medical qualifications, and I believe they wanted to go to Italy. And in Italy, apparently there is now an acceptance of EQPR for access to medical professions. So I think it is helpful. It helps in many ways. So, but of course, I mean, it's not, in a perfect world, we would not use EQPR. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Katarina?
Yeah, hello, this is Katarina from Technical University Berlin. I have a question regarding the interviews, because you said that like the whole process also is aiming at like filling the gaps if like there is incomplete documentation of the educational background of someone. What does the interview look like? Is it that you try to find out if it's plausible what people tell you, or do you also like talk with them with regards to contents of their studies, or is it an exam-like situation that you have a look at, okay, does someone has the knowledge he or she should have? If like, I mean, I don't know, you studied mechanical engineering or something, or is it more like that you try to see if it makes sense what people tell you? Is it more like checking plausibility?
Yes, I mean, I think that my EQPR project colleagues have much more idea how the interviews look like. But what I understand, it's mostly to identify things which may be, you know, like filling the gaps and looking where the information, you know, studying the file and looking, okay, does it really fit, you know? So if a person, I don't know, says that he or she has a great knowledge of languages, and then the person hardly speaks any language. I mean, let's put it like this. I mean, EQPR are not granted easily. I mean, there is a thorough check, because you know, we put the quality label of this on this. So I mean, the idea, of course, is not to compromise person, but I mean also to check if there is some strange, if it doesn't sound very logical, or if there's some things are not really clicking together, then probably either you need to have more information or ask this person to provide more, some kind of more better ideas. But there are actually refusals on interviews as well.
Okay, so that means it's kind of a mixture of like people should like explain and it should fit, but also you have a look at contents, but not in a very, I understand, not the focus is more on does it make sense?
Yes. I mean, because people come from different backgrounds. I mean, if people have medical profession, it's not like you can, you know, that you can. I mean, we're not specialists in medical profession. We cannot give an exam. But for example, what was interesting, what happened in France, is that when the COVID pandemic started, the refugees who had medical backgrounds, particularly nursing, they were almost, you know, very quickly, just with I mean, with the passport or whatever, they were very quickly integrated in the system. And then, of course, once they arrive in hospitals, it is very clear if they have the competencies or not.
Yeah.
So, you know, the French had this very pragmatic approach, the Ministry of Interior, because it's highly regulated profession. But there they said, okay, let's, you know, we have a crisis, we have a pandemic, we have lack of personnel. It was dramatic, you know, not enough nurses, hospitals overwhelmed. Let's try to see if these people, of course, under the supervision of the local staff, which were qualified, but then immediately you see, yes, if these people know what they were explaining or not.
Okay,
So
thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a question here on the chat. Parnijan Ahmadi asks if this program also intended for Afghans.
Yes, there was actually a special session for the Afghan refugees. So yes, the quick answer is yes. This was one of the target refugee categories. And I remember that my colleagues even organized a special seminar on how to deal with qualifications coming from Afghanistan, how to recognize them.
Thank you. I'm thinking like I'm seeing myself going through this process of interviews, and I can see me in a very, stress situation. I think this can be very stressful for the people, because somehow they are like trying to demonstrate, to show that they have the knowledge they're saying that they have. Is there any kind of accompaniment to these people who are applying for the passport from the Council of Europe or from associations, NGOs, or universities?
Well, as far as I know, the Council of Europe is always present at the interviews. My colleagues are there. So basically, yes, they are not credential evaluators, but they are making sure that the atmosphere during the interview is not to put a person under stress in the stress situation. I mean, but if your question is more on psychological help, then no, we don't have a psychological support, but we do have our staff member always present, either online or there, to ensure that this is done in a goodwill sense. I mean, the idea is not to put the person on guard or to make the person, in defensive mode. The idea is to help these people, and I think that's very much the how do you say, our way of being in the Council of Europe.
Thank you very much.